Good morning, everyone. So today we will be starting off with the fifth module of Java J2E ISC 641 subject code. So myself, Vandana, uh, Assistant Professor, ISC Department, New Horizon College of Engineering. So in this particular module, we will be basically going through what are the various web technologies and how the J2E technologies are basically used to develop enterprise applications which are in use in the industry, okay, in a very large scale. So till now, whatever our portions we have basically covered in this particular course, we have dealt with the core Java concepts. Then we have basically seen how to deal with the database connectivity. Okay, so now coming to this particular module, we will be basically learning about the J2E concept, which deals with servlets and the JSPs. So initially, when the internet technologies basically started off, you can see that we evolved with the HTML pages first. So these HTML pages were basically quite static. That means if you want to display some information, you can make a simple HTML page and you can basically show it to the user. The user only can basically see the information. But over the time, the requirement became that people want not just static pages, but they want some kind of dynamicity there. That means I want to make the user fill some information in my web pages and take the response from the user and give them the adequate reply for these responses. For example, I want a user to fill the form and give me a feedback about the product which I am basically selling, or I want them to basically do a registration. So this is called as the dynamic web pages. To support this, we had to basically come up with new technologies which are basically server side, which basically process the server side or handling. So this is where the Java technologies, that is the servlets and the JSPs, which is the Java server pages, came into picture and are widely used in the industry. Okay, almost all the enterprise applications are basically built on top of these two technologies. So at the end of this particular course, okay, after studying this particular module, the student will be able to understand the fundamentals of what is meant by web technologies. Okay, in that predominantly two main concepts, one is called as servlets and these JSPs. Okay, how the framework is basically built upon. Okay, and then students will be able to have real world hands-on experience. Okay, and they will be able to develop the applications using these technologies. So that's what is being planned, okay, as a course outcome for this particular module. Okay, so now um, going forward, so let me just share. So I repeat, the fifth module of the curriculum of the course Java J2E ISC 641, we will be dealing with the uh, servlets and the JSPs. So to start off, you can basically see that here we basically deal with working with uh, servlets 3.0, and we will be learning about the different features of the Java servlets. We will be exploring what do we mean by servlet API. What do we mean by API? What is the meaning of API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. So here we basically deal with what are the different kinds of methods and interfaces which are basically available and provided by the Java packages, which a developer can just start using it and come up with the products, okay, based upon the requirement of the user. So in short, if you see, API consists of all the methods and the interfaces which are readily available in the standard packages of the Java, which a developer can import and can start basically using them. So we will learn what is the support for the servlets which is present in the JDK, okay, and the J2E packages. Then we will learn what is meant by the life cycle of the servlets. Okay, we will predominantly learn about HTTP protocol and how the HTTP protocol is supported by the servlets in the format of the request and response interfaces, how the request delegation is basically done and its scope, session tracking using the cookie handling. So these are the topics that we are planning to learn as a part of the servlets technologies. So after doing this, students will be confident to come up with servlet based programs. Okay, and the second part of this particular module deals with the JSPs, where we have working with the JSPs, which are Java Server Pages. We will introduce what is the advantage of JSPs over the servlets, why it has come into picture, what is the architecture of the JSPs, and again the life cycle, and how the JSPs can be very closely related to the HTML programming, and the basic tags and the implicit objects. We will learn the various action tags which are present inside the JSPs. So once this portion is done, students will be comfortable in writing the programs related to JSPs. So they will be able to write an enterprise application, okay, where you have the servlets, where you have the JSPs, and from the previous modules, if you have learned the JDBC concepts are clear, you will be able to integrate it with the database, and a complete three-tier product you will be able to develop. Okay. So let's start off with the servlets. So before pitching into servlets, let's see what do we mean by the web architecture model. Okay, so the web architecture or the web application is a server-side application that contains the various web components like the servlets and the JSPs along with the HTMLs, and they are typically zipped together in the format of a WAR file. So as I told in the starting, when initially the internet proliferation happened, we had the HTML also basically developed. So HTML is a language that is hosted by almost all the browsers. Okay, it is compatible, but those were basically made quite static. We needed some kind of dynamicity where we take the input from the users and send it for processing to a server. The server basically takes the input, does some kind of processing, validates it, okay, and then gives back the response. For example, a typical example if I tell is, say I am booking a ticket in IRCTC website. So I am filling the form where I give the source, the destination, and I give the date. Okay. And when I press the submit button, the request basically goes to a server of the IRCTC, which may be at a very remote location. The parameters which the user has filled in the HTML web page of the IRCTC home page will be sent to this particular server. The server will basically take that, process it, and it will basically give back the list of all the trains which are present between a source and a destination on a specific day. So you can see that here we have two main components, a client which is showing the both the request and the response to the user, okay, in the format of an HTML page, okay, and the request basically goes to the server which is at a remote location where it was having a processing power to take that, okay, come up with the logic, okay, the business logic to handle it. It may connect to the database to find out what all trains are there in between the source and the destination in this particular example, and give back the response. So this is a very fundamental example of a web application where we have server-side processing, which is typically performed by the components like your servlets and the JSPs. And here we have the HTML documents. As I said, we can zip all of them together, and we typically call it as a WAR file. Okay, WAR is called as web archive file. Like how if it's just core Java, we call it as jar file, which is Java archive file. Okay, here since we have the server side components that is related to the web applications, we call them as WAR files, that is the web archive file. So here you can understand that the web application is typically located at a central server and it provides the services to the client. Now, in the market, there are basically two main architectures, okay, or design models, which are the fundamentals of the web architecture. Under the model one, so you can see this, you can see at a very high level, we have yeah, at a very high level, we can basically see that we are having something called as the browser. So when we see the browser here, the browser basically deals with uh, the client interface. So the browser is the part where it is basically dealing with the client interface. The client basically makes a request. This request basically goes to a server. So this you can understand. Let us assume let me take the example of the IRCTC website itself. So I have a web browser, okay, where the details of the home page of the web browser basically opens up for IRCTC. Now, when I fill the source and the destination and the date, that request basically goes to the IRCTC website server, which may be at a very remote location. Now, on that particular server, it will have the business logic of how to basically process the entire request which is coming from the client side. So for that, you can see that we have certain component which is called as JSP. Let's not get into what is meant by JSP or what exactly it does, which we will learn further in this particular module. So just understand that there is a particular software, okay, which is running, which is capable of taking this request, okay, connecting it with something called as the Java Bean. And this Java Bean basically connects it with a data source. When I say the data source, it is actually the database. Okay, so when I say the source and the destination, it will connect to the database. It will make a select star query, select star all the trains which are from this source to another destination on a particular day. This request query will go to the database. The database gives back the response. From the Java Bean, the response is given to the JSP. JSP will form the particular HTML page, and the response is finally given back to the client. So this is how typically the model one architecture works. If you see here, we have three important components inside this architecture. This is called as tier one. This particular component is called as the tier two, and this is called as the tier three. So this is a very fundamental example of three-tier architecture. So where we have the browser, which is the front end, okay, JSPs, which are basically doing the business logic along with the Java Bean, and it connects with the data source. Now, quickly, let's revise. What do we mean by Java Bean? What is meant by a Java Bean? Recollect what is meant by a Java Bean. So, Java Bean is a simple Java class, okay, with the specific attributes of a particular class along with the methods, typically the getter and the setter methods, okay. These getter and the setter methods are made public so that anybody can access it. For example, if I basically want to have a Java Bean for a student, so I have a class called as student where the name, USN number, and the email ID, these three attributes, okay, are public. To modify them and to retrieve their values, we will have the methods like get name, get USN number, set USN number, get email ID, set email ID. These methods together with the attributes which are basically made public form something which is called as our Java Bean. So Java Beans are required because we need to basically connect it with the database. So this is the model one that we are basically using, and it is one of the fundamental models. Now let's see what are the advantages and the drawbacks of this particular model. So if you see here, yeah. So if you basically see, the browser basically sends a request for the JSP, okay? Yeah, so the flow here is the browser basically sends the request for the JSP page. From the JSP, it basically accesses the Java bean and it invokes the business logic. From the Java bean, it connects to the database and it basically gives the response back, which is generated by the JSP. So as we have basically seen the flow, okay, so the first step here is the browser taking the request, sending it to the Java bean or the JSPs for processing, dealing with the database part, constructing the response and giving it back through the JSP. Now, if you see, the advantage here is it's very quick and easy to develop the web application. It doesn't take uh, a complex logic to build it. However, there are major disadvantages in this particular case. Let us say that here it is the navigation control is highly decentralized. Okay, since every page contains the logic of how to connect to the next page. So if one JSP page name is changed, then it will have to basically being referred by other pages. So let's take the example, like let us assume that there is one HTML page. Okay, if the content of that particular HTML page is changed, then or the content or the name of that particular HTML page is also changed, then all the other places where it is getting accessed need to be basically changed. So the navigation control is highly decentralized. There is no proper centralized mechanism. Okay, and it takes a lot of time to develop the custom pages or the tags using the JSPs. And as I said, it is very hard to extend these kind of softwares when we use this kind of model. It is good for small applications where let us assume that I have only three operations. For example, create a student entry, delete a student entry, and update a student entry. If only the use case consists of only these three scenarios, then this kind of model is very good. But the problem here is everything is bundled together in one single component. So any change you have to do, whether it is the presentation, business logic, or in the database, the entire software has to be stopped. It is everything clubbed together in one layer. Okay. So now we will basically see the Model 2 architecture. The Model 2 architecture is based upon the famous design pattern, which is called as the MVC design pattern. So this is how typically the MVC architecture basically works. So you can see here under the MVC architecture, we have the model, view, and the controller. The full form of MVC is model, view, and controller. So what exactly it is doing? Here, the view part basically deals with the presentation part. So anything that you basically want to display to the world, okay, it comes, that particular software component is called as the view part. Okay, the model basically deals with the database part or the file part where your actual data is basically present. And controller, as the name says, controls the flow of information between the view and the model. So let's see what exactly is happening here. I repeat, here here you can see that, let us take a simple example of student registration form. So I have a web page where the name and the USN number is given. So that basically is forming by view part of it. Okay, so that basically forms the view part of it. Then comes basically the model part where I have a database, and inside the database I have kept a table, okay, where I have the student name and the USN number. Okay, and associated with it a primary key is kept to uniquely identify the entries. Okay, then I should have a controller, okay, which is responsible for the flow of data between the view and the model. So here you can see that if any user is giving the input for the name and the USN number, the control basically goes to the controller module. The controller module then basically updates the state change to the model part of it. The model part, when it basically gets updated, it basically updates the controller to update the view part of it. So any state query, if you are basically making, it has to go through the controller to the module. So you are clearly bifurcating all the three layers
Okay, so you have the view, which is the presentation, the model, which is the data holding software component, and the controller, where you write the business logic, which is responsible for taking the input from the user, okay, sending it to the model, okay, checking out any changes in the model and updating it back to the view part of it. Okay, so MVC model or MVC design pattern is the most fundamental design pattern which is available in the industry. Based upon this pattern, the model 2 architecture is designed. So now let's see here. As you can see, we have the browser which is used by the client. The request will come. Now, this is the entire business logic that we are going to write, the tier 2 part. The tier 2 part now, if you see here, follows the MVC model. So you can see here, we have the model. The model part deals with the Java bean. As I said, this is a simple Java class with the attributes and the setter and the getter methods, which connect with the database. So this forms the model part of the data. Then comes the view part, okay, is formed by the JSP, Java Server Pages. As I said, let's not get into what is meant by JSP, but just we will understand now that it is a software, okay, which is meant for taking the request and giving back the response. So the JSP forms the view part of the data. And the last one is the controller, okay, which will be where all the business logic is written, is the servlets. Okay, so now let's take the simple example of student registration. So the first thing is a login form is given to the student where the name and the USN number is given. Now, when the student fills that and presses the submit button, the request basically goes to a servlet, which is on a remote machine, not on the client machine, but on a remote machine. Now, the servlet, it will basically take out the request, which is coming from the client, and then basically fill up the Java bean, okay, where the attributes of this particular Java class of the student will be basically filled up. Based upon filling these attributes, it will be put into the database. Okay, an entry will be made. And if the entry is successful in the database, it gives back the response that it is successful. Now, the request goes to the JSP, and now JSP constructs a new fresh HTML page where it will say that registration is successful. You are welcome to the um, organization. So that's what is the view part getting constructed by the JSP. This is then given back to the client. So you can see that clearly we have three different components which are running. Now, tomorrow, if we say that I want to change, okay, the view part, instead of telling welcome to the organization, I want to print like welcome to New Horizon College of Engineering. So if I want to do that, neither my servlet will change, nor my Java bean will change, nor my database will change. Only the view part will basically change. That's all will change. Same way, tomorrow we are planning that apart from the name and the USN, let us assume email ID also we want to include now. Okay. So now when new one more entry has come, okay, only the database part can basically change, okay, or only the servlet part can basically change. There is not, no, if there is no requirement to change the JSP, then the JSP need not be changed. So we have very clear cut of all the three modules. One is the model part, which is the data handling module. Second thing is the view part, which is the JSPs. And the third one is the controller part. So this is the most established architecture that is used in the industry. Very, very important topic. Okay. Not only from exam perspective, but also when it comes to company interviews and all, or when you are, if you are planning to come up with a web-based application, you can try to follow this architecture. Don't put everything together in one file. That is not the best practice of the industry. You should basically bifurcate it into different layers and modules where clearly you will have a model file, which is dealing with the database. You will have a controller file, which will take the request from the client, process and give back the response. And you have a JSP, which will form the view part of it. Okay, so I hope the architecture is basically clear. It's very, very important, the model to architecture. Let's see. As I said, the model 2 is based upon the MVC design pattern. Okay, where the business logic, you are keeping it. Okay, and the controller is an interface between the view and the model. Here, the advantages are the navigation control is centralized. I repeat, the navigation control is centralized. So not only the controller contains the logic, okay, it is only the one which will determine where to forward the message to. Okay, it's not the JSP which will decide, it's only centralized. Okay, and one common servlet will basically decide how the flow should basically happen. It is easy to maintain. Why do you think it is easy to maintain? Why do you feel that this particular architecture is easy to maintain? As I said, if any bug comes in one module, it will not basically spread to the other modules. Only you can concentrate in the JSP if it's a issue related to the view part. If it's an issue related to the database, only to the model you can basically correct. If it's related to the controlling part, so only the servlet you can debug and find out. It is easy to extend also. Okay, so you can start off with first one page, then slowly you can increase the different modules. Okay, for example, first you start with the student registration. Later on, you can start with the faculty registrations. Okay, later on, you can take the customer feedbacks or the students' feedback on that particular website. Then you can take out the options to see the students' details, which courses they have enrolled. Okay, what is their current attendances. So like that, the software can be extended based upon the requirement. So you start with bare minimum and you can keep expanding your software if you are using this kind of architecture. It is easy to test also because, as I said, there is a clear cut separation of the three modules. So you can clearly decide what to test. If you want to only test the presentation part, go ahead and write some scripts to test the JSPs. If you feel that you want to test the controller part, write the test cases only for the servlets. However, here the disadvantage with the MVC or the model 2 architecture is we need to write more code, okay, compared to the model 1, because now we have a controller part separately where we need to write the controller code itself. Any changes the controller code we will do, we need to recompile that particular class and redeploy the application. So it is coming at the cost of doing this to recompile the class and redeploy the application, but it gives you a lot of advantages which overweighs this particular disadvantage. Okay, so I hope I have made the concept clear. Okay, with respect to exploring the web app architecture. Okay, so there are two models, model 1 and model 2, where model 2 is dealing with the MVC design pattern. Okay. Now let's start off with a quick introduction to the servlets. Okay. So as I said, the servlets are the small programs that execute on the server side of a web connection. So when you have a client and a server, the client is something which is running on the local system by the customer or the user. When the user fills that the request, okay, the entire request goes to a remote machine, okay, which is called as a server. Okay, the server will process that particular request and give back the response. Now this servlet is a small Java application or a program that always executes on the server side. That's why we call the servlets and the JSPs as the server side applications or server side technology. Can you give me an example of what do we mean by the client side technology? Something which is doing the validations on the client side. Can you give me some technology name which is doing the client side? Servlets are doing the Server side. Any technology can you give? Think about it. Okay. In web programming, have you basically studied JavaScripts? Okay. So what does this JavaScripts do? JavaScripts are basically dealing with client side technology. Okay. So any changes that you basically want to do on the client side, it basically deals with the JavaScripts. So for example, let us assume a user has filled a form. Okay. In the form, age is one attribute. Okay. Now, of course, we know that the age cannot be 200 or 300 or 1000, which is then invalid data. So why to send that particular data to the server and then server checking and telling it is wrong and giving back the response? Instead of that, at the client side itself, inside the HTML page itself, you can write a small script using Java scripts which will validate and tell that this age cannot be beyond 150, okay, or cannot be beyond 200. So no need to send the entire request to the server and then basically get back the response. So this kind of technology which works on the client side, on the client software, typically with the HTML, are called as the client side technologies like the JavaScript. The one that does the logic on the server side, okay, by taking the request from the client over the network and then giving a response back on the network, is basically called as the server side technology, and that's what we are now basically studying, the servlets. So now let's see how the things basically work on the web. So we have the first thing called as the client. So typically we will have the web browser. The web browser can be the different things in the market. Typically we have Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Firefox. So there are many in the market. So almost all the web browsers will basically support the HTML language to host or to deploy the UI interface. Then comes the server. Okay, server is a computer system with more processing power and a typical software which is capable of handling these client requests. So to give an example of the most easiest web server that the students can start exploring, we have something called as the Apache Tomcat server. Okay, so it's a free software, so anybody can go and check out the website for Apache Tomcat. Okay, and you can basically search and download in their official website the latest version of the Tomcat software. It's just a zip file. You have to just unzip and keep it in one specific folder. Okay, so with that, your system will become the server. Okay, so it will give you the power of the entire web server processing using the Tomcat software. So Tomcat is a server which is given by the organization called as Apache. Apart from that, we have the web servers from many vendors. To name a few, we have from IBM, WebSphere is there, JBoss server is there, IIS server is there. So there are many servers which are there in the market, and each of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. The companies will evaluate based upon the different customer requirements, and they will decide upon which web server they have to buy and they have to install on the server. In our subject, okay, all the programs that I will be demonstrating, I will be using the Apache Tomcat server, which is quite simple. Okay, version 7, and you can take any of the latest versions which are there. I have downloaded and installed version 7.0. So however, you are not limited to use that. You can take any of the higher versions also. Now, coming to the protocol which interacts between the client and the server, we know that when we type www. say google.com, World Wide Web, this is over the internet. We have studied the 7 layers, OSI 7 layers in computer networks. So in that, the topmost layer is the application layer. Inside the application layer, okay, there are different types of protocols which are available. We use the HTTP, okay, which is a request reply paradigm, okay, protocol for basically sending the request from the client to the server. So when you use the Internet Explorer and when we use the internet to transfer the data between the client and the server, okay, we can basically use the HTTP protocol. So for all our programming, experiments in this module, we will be using the HTTP protocol, which is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. I repeat, it is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And to construct the web pages, okay, you can use the HTML, which is Hypertext Markup Language. Okay. So the components of the web, if you see, we have the web client. So using the web client lets the user request, okay, it will basically help the user to make the request and also to display the request or reply. Okay, the web server, it takes the client request and it gives back the response to the client. The protocol HTTP, it takes the client request to the server and it brings back the server response to the client. The language HTML, it gives the instructions to the browser about how the UI has to be displayed. So putting it all together, so this diagram will give you an understanding about how the client makes a request to the server, okay, and how the server basically gives back the response. So the browser is the client-side proxy which sends the request. The request is the browser interaction with the server. The request is some kind of data that is taken up by the HTTP, okay, and then to the server it basically goes off. Okay, the web server is an application which receives the particular request, okay, and the server sends the response back, okay, in terms of the HTML page. It will basically send the response. So you can see here, from the client the request goes to the server. Okay, we have seen here something called as post. Can you see here something called as post? We will see what exactly is this post. Okay, and then when the response comes back, you can see HTTP slash 101 200. Okay, this is a code language. Okay, so you can understand that HTTP is a language which the client and the server is using to talk to each other. I hope this diagram is clear. Okay. Now let's see some of the key elements. Okay. So the request stream here, if you see HTTP method, it is basically the get and the post. So we have, actually speaking, only two methods are basically predominantly used, okay, inside the HTTP methods paradigm. We have the get method and we have the post method. So the request packet should consist of which is the name of the method. Okay, apart from that, the page URLs. Okay, then comes the form parameters. Okay, the form parameters, when I say whatever the form the user has filled. For example, the user has to enter the name and the USN. So both the two becomes the form parameters. So all these three things will basically be a part of the request stream. The response will be either everything went fine, so 200 okay, the status code, or something went wrong, so that is a 404 page not found. Then you will see basically the content type. What kind of content are you planning to render and the actual content. Okay. So how many of you have seen when you open a particular web page, 404 page not found error? It's one of the most common error pages that we see on the internet. That means that the server was not able to process your request and it is giving you an error message saying that page not found. So whatever you requested, the response didn't come. For example, let us assume that you want to open your Gmail account. Okay, so you have your username and the password. So when you press the submit button, the request goes to the Google server. Google server checks your username and the password, and if everything is fine, it will give back a response just called as 200 OK inside your HTTP packet. If something goes wrong, okay, say the server was down, you were not able to connect to the Gmail server, then it basically shows the error which is called as 404 page not found. And finally comes the content type. So what kind of content do you want to basically render? If it's an image content, whether it is an audio content, video content, or a simple text or an HTML content. So you have to tell what kind of content are you going to give back to the client, and the actual content should be a part of the response stream. So every HTTP request has a request line, a header, and the body. The form data can be sent to the server using different types of methods. So as you can see, we have two important methods which are basically being used. One is called as the get method, and the other one is basically called as the post method. So let's see what is meant by the get method. So the get is basically used to request the data from the server. Okay. On the other hand, the post is basically used when you want to send the user data to the server. For example, let us say that I'm logging it into my Gmail account. So I give my username and the password and I press the submit button. So you can see that on the Google page, on the taskbar, the URL would have basically changed. You will actually see, along with the www.googlegmail.com, you will also be basically seeing something called as login, what is the parameter you typed, the user, and the what password you have basically typed. This kind of method is basically called as the get method, where you are requesting that the home page to be opened based upon the username and the password that you are basically typing. On the other hand, if you want to send some user data to the server, for example, file uploading, certain kind of file uploading, okay, or video uploading operations if you are doing, and there is huge amount of data that you want to send to the server, in such a case, we basically prefer something called as the post method. So when the amount of data to be sent to the server is less, then we go ahead with the get. When the amount of data to be sent to the server is huge, we basically prefer the post method. In the get method, whatever parameters you are sending to the server will get appended as a part of the URL. In the post data, whatever data you are sending to the server will be hidden inside the body of the HTTP request packet. Okay, it will not be shown as a part of the URL. So if you have any safety reasons, then better to go ahead and use the post method. In case of get method, okay, you can see the URL it is getting appended. Okay, since the data is very less, it becomes a part of your URL. Okay, so now we will see what are the advantages of the servlets. So the servlets are basically platform independent. Why they are platform independent? Because they are written in Java. So the same advantage of the core Java, where we say that you write once and run anywhere and anytime, any number of times, same advantage you will get it here also. All you have to do is to write one servlet, then you can deploy it on any of the web servers, okay, on any operating system, need not be Windows or Linux specifically, because since it is Java, it is platform independent. Performance is better here because it executes within its own address space. It is not necessary to create its own separate process to handle each request. It basically has security restrictions, so it will not go and access the other components of your particular system. Okay. So we will basically see what are the two main types of servlets which are basically available. So one is called as the generic servlet and the other one is basically called as the HTTP servlet. Okay. Generic servlet, as we say, the servlets can work with any protocol and is used for other than the web applications. So let us assume if you have a file transfer protocol, so then if you are using a servlet with the FTP protocol, we can use the generic servlets. If you are very particular to work only with the HTTP protocol, then we can go ahead and use the HTTP servlet class, which is present inside the servlet packages, which is given inside your Java packages. Okay, so we will conclude with this class. So what we have studied today, let's have a quick refresh of the things. So as I told, this module consists of two main things, the servlets and the JSPs. Under the servlets, we will be studying the features of the servlets. Okay, servlets API, lifecycle, okay, the delegation process and the session handling using cookie handling, and continuing with the second part, which is the JSPs. Then we studied the two basic web architecture models. The model 1 architecture, where the entire thing was decentralized, hence it was tough to do the scalability. So to overcome this, we used the model 2, which is based upon the MVC architecture. In the model 2, there is a clear separation of the view part, which is given by the JSP. Okay, the controller part, which is given by the servlets, and the model part, okay, which is given by the Java Bean, which connects with the database. We saw the advantages and the disadvantages of each of them. Then we saw introduction to the servlets. What are the various things, okay, related to the HTTP protocol? The HTTP protocol works on the standard port number 8080. Okay, however, you can use any other port number also. It uses the 8080 protocol. The two important methods that are used to support the transfer of data between the client and the server are the get method and the post method. The response can be an error or a correct message, which consists of the content type. We studied the difference between the get and the post method. We saw the advantages of the servlets and typically the types of the servlets. So with this, we will conclude, and the next topic we will be basically seeing in the next class. Thank you.